Last year and a half, of course, having been at Villanova this is my 6th year at Villanova, but I have a totally different viewpoint during the course of the last year as dean, and so it's really been an honor to get the chance to work with Father and the leadership at Villanova on so many exciting new initiatives, which you'll be hearing about shortly. And so I want to say to you, one of the things that I've been so pleased with is, you know, we at times have to make some very difficult decisions, just like many of you in your organizations. And Father Peter has been an unwavering supporter. He is a strong person in meetings that we have about those difficult decisions, and it's truly been an honor. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Which it would then surprise you to know that about a minute before we stood on stage,
I was going to tell this. Yeah.
Oh, were you? I spilled a cup of coffee on Father Peter.
Thankfully, it's all black. So.
It's exactly the gracious way he handled it.
Feeling a little warm right now, but that's okay.
So Father Peter and I did a fireside chat for our executive MBA students about a year ago, and it was just so well received, and it just was such a nice event that we decided this might be a nice approach for today to discuss some of the issues around collaboration, our theme, Collaborate to Compete. So I want to kick off the discussion with Father in particular to ask you how collaboration ties into the Augustinian community perspective, St. Augustine, and how that might link into really our Augustinian mission.
So I have 3 hours to explain
yes.
all that? Well, I you know, first and foremost, I think all of you are well aware of the foundation that St. Augustine's teachings has at the university, and we talk about him a great deal and talk about his journey, and it's a journey. His life he consistently talks about where he is going and what he is searching for, and that searching is always connected to people. He believed very strongly in the relationships that he had with other people, and he believed very strongly in the sense of friendship, and it was really through other people that he discovered who he was and he discovered his relationship with God. So he puts a great deal of emphasis in everything that he writes on community and the building of community and how that community functions together. Through many of his writings, whether it be the City of God or the Confessions or De Trinitate or whatever it might be, he's always focusing on the community of people working together and struggling together. And he speaks often in the plural. He very rarely talks about I, but he talks about we all the time. And in his writings, he focuses a great deal on what each member of the community must contribute to it. And his concept is not necessarily equality, that everybody is the same, but that at times one person has to rise up above somebody else in order to make that community function correctly. So when we look at the university in the notion of collaboration and community, it's very much that at times, you know, we give focus to one thing over something else, or we promote something over something else, but all of us work together in order to make that happen. I've been a great proponent over the last 8 years, I can't believe it's 8 years already that I've been in this job, over kind of interdisciplinary work and really functioning together as kind of breaking down what is traditionally in higher education often seen as silos, you know, the colleges, the departments, department chairs, student life departments, and all of those kinds of things that have a tendency sometimes to function very independently because each of them have their own focus of attention that they're trying to do, whether it be a student life program or whether it be an academic program. And at Villanova, we have made a great effort to try to merge those things together, that a student's activities on campus, whether they be in the classroom or outside of the classroom, are all connected. And that education takes place from the moment they get up to the moment they go to bed. And most of the times that's very late at night. But that it's an energy that takes place in their lives, that education is always part of it. And so we function at times very separately, but always working for the same goal. And when Augustine talks about community, that's exactly what he's talking about. He has a great image of a harbor that he talks about. And the harbor at times, it has all kinds of ships in the harbor, and at times the waters are very calm and the ships are all next to each other. And then at times things become a little rough, or things become difficult in terms of weather, and the waters begin to rise and turn, and the ships start bouncing into each other. But the way they're situated in the harbor, nothing is destroyed. But they might rub up against each other, they might hit against each other, they might knock each other back and forth. But there's a unity between them that even in the difficult times, they're not going to destroy each other, harm one another. And that's how really he talks about how community must function. That at times, issues will rise, disagreements will happen. One person will want one thing, another person will want another thing. But it's how you situate yourselves with each other that you realize maybe we do need to give this person more emphasis, or maybe this individual needs something different at this time, and that we can all contribute to having that happen in one way or another. Probably many of you have heard us talk about the ACS classes. They're offered through the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences. And it's a course that all the freshmen take, whether they be in business, engineering, nursing, arts, the humanities, science, whatever it is, but all freshmen take it. They're very small seminars. There are about 15 to 16 students with a professor, and they examine kind of the great thinkers, Augustine being one of them, but the great thinkers of our time, and their writings and what they're talking about. But all of it is in relationship to how those writers or how those thoughts are affecting an 18-year-old today. How is it that they see themselves within this worldview, or how do they see themselves being challenged by what this writer, what she or he has to say? And the course themselves, even though they're coming from very different disciplines, and all of them at 18 years old, all of them are kind of struggling, where do I belong and what do I want, and what major am I going to have, and what's going to happen to me down the road, and what club and organization can I be part of. The course itself draws them together in a very different place and joins them together to say, we need to function together, and we need to support each other, and we need to hear each other and dialogue with each other about what is happening, and what can you offer this group from a business perspective, from a history perspective, from a math perspective, from a nursing perspective, from an engineering perspective. How is it that we continue to talk to each other and listen to each other? So all of our students have this opportunity to really enter into a process of critically thinking, creatively thinking, of how do they continue to communicate with each other and speak what is important to them, but understand and listen to what's important to somebody else. So community really shapes everything we do here, and all community, in the mind of Augustine, is collaboration. So,
great. We've done a job even beyond the ACS course that Father talked about. We had some terrific success in terms of collaboration across our colleges. So many of you would have heard perhaps about our mobile application development course, where we took students from the business school, from engineering, and also from arts and sciences, and put a course around mobile application development and the business model around that. So the students, 10 from each of those colleges, were put in 3-person teams, one from each of the schools, to collaborate across both the creative side of a mobile application, the hardware issues from an engineering perspective, and then the business model for what type of value proposition. And so that course has served as a pretty good model to look at how we might collaborate across our colleges and go, sort of inter-college. Actually, I will welcome Dean Jean Ann Linney, who's here from Liberal Arts and Sciences, who wasn't able to join us last night. And so the deans, when we get together, we are looking for opportunities to break down those silos beyond the early courses where our students do come together in liberal arts and sciences oftentimes and look for ways they can really now take their functional knowledge of engineering, nursing, business, and come together and look at those functional perspectives in a collaborative and different way. So it's something I think Father is a central or cornerstone to his academic strategy for the university.
There was I offered some seed money. Faculty always like seed money. But I offered some money to faculty. It was kind of a challenge for them to come together from different colleges. They had to be from the different colleges, and they had to come up with a new course, and a course that combined all 4 colleges together. And the deans, the proposals were submitted to the deans to evaluate, and the first one that was selected is actually a course that is dealing not only with an in-class experience, but the class, they'll come from engineering, nursing, environmental sciences, as well as business. and they're going to come together in a course next semester and study an environmental issue from all those perspectives. And then in the summer, the entire class with the 4 faculty members are traveling to the Philippines to do some service learning work. So the faculty are very excited about it, but it's really an effort to kind of bring everybody into that kind of focus of how do we really learn from one another. And so it should be it's the first of, I hope, of many courses. But I need more seed money, hint, hint.
We did get a number of applications for that. So I think the course is called something like Technological Innovation in Developing World. So to think about student groups from across the campus looking at the technologies of water, clean air, energy in third world or developing countries, and how it might have a sustainable economic model so that it's not just philanthropic where we go in and set up these processes or initiatives that then fall to the wayside when the money dries up, so that there's an economic value proposition that ensures its sustainability. So we're very excited about that exact example the Father gave. I wanted to ask you, I know many here would be interested to hear about athletics in the Big East, and I think it's a great story about collaboration outside of our university that you were central to. So I would ask you to share with us some of what happened there.
Oh, well, it was collaboration and a lot of fighting as well. I don't think the story is probably familiar to all of you by this point, but things have been happening in college athletics, and particularly now things are even beginning more to bubble up, and there are these, what is referred to as the 5 super conferences. And the 5 super conferences, there's a great deal of emphasis put on football. And the Big East, the old Big East, the former Big East, was really trying to compete, I think, in the best possible ways with these other 5 conferences in terms of the football bowl series, the FBS series versus the FCC series. I've learned a lot about sports in the last 8 years, I must say. But I think as we saw it and things started shaking up and conferences started splintering and people started kind of going their own way and looking for the best television deals and what was best for their institutions and what was going to give them the most value for their particular programs, people started leaving what was the traditional Big East, the former Big East, and leaving for other opportunities. And as that started happening, of course, the Big East, the former Big East, started looking for other partners. And as that started happening, I think what were then defined as the 7 Catholics, we started looking at exactly what was happening to us and where we were situated in the whole thing. Now, there was a whole another element that the Board of Trustees, and particularly the Athletic Committee, Bill Gibson is here, he could certainly tell you much more about this than I could, but we were offered, or we thought we were offered football by the old Big East, and that didn't happen, but we won't get into that. But anyway, the 7 of us started looking at what do we do well? And what is we as institutions, kind of the similarity between us, and it goes beyond just the notion of that all of us were Catholic institutions, but we were very similar size, kinds of programs, kinds of energies, kinds of value system. And what we did well was basketball. As a group of 7 schools, traditionally that's really what we did well. And all of us might have had different kinds of sports and a different variety of sports. Georgetown is the largest of the schools in terms of its varsity sports programs. They have 25 varsity sports programs. Villanova is next in line with 24. And then it got a little smaller, you know, as the schools went on. But all of us had that commonality of men and women's basketball, which had been given a lot of emphasis by the 7 schools. We had demonstrated our prowess in that. And we got together on a cold winter morning in Queens, New York, at St. John's, and we discussed what it was that we wanted to create in our own destiny, and how the 7 of us could work together to create what was a unique quality of our 7 schools. and how do we forge that kind of destiny with each other, and not become kind of second citizens or second class in this larger conference that was really beginning to move in many different directions. And I think it was when, it was really the adding of a lot of different schools and a lot of different locations that we started really thinking, how is it that we are going to really promote ourselves in this vast geographic landscape that was becoming the Big East. So it was, at the time, it was stretching from Idaho to Florida, and where we were going to be situated, and that we just felt ourselves getting more and more swallowed up by the whole notion of big football programs and how we would compete with that. So the 7 of us decided that we would take our destiny into our own hands, and with the support of a lot of people and all of our boards of trustees, we moved forward with creating the new Big East. It was not an easy process. There was a lot of negotiations and lots of times with lawyers, and I felt like I was living in New York City at that point for several weeks, but it was, there was a lot of tension, but it all worked out. And then the 3 schools, Xavier, Butler, and Creighton, were added by the 7 of us when we started looking at what schools would begin to bring value to it. And we weren't looking to necessarily create a Catholic conference, hence Jim Danko and Butler. It was, it was really to, what were the schools that would add value to this predominantly basketball-centric program or basketball-centric conference, and try to recapture what was originally the Big East. It's gone very well. We have a wonderful commissioner. She's done a wonderful job of putting it together. It has started. I mean, our other sports are playing. On New Year's Eve, if you haven't heard, we've got a great contract with Fox, much better than we had with ESPN, and we're very excited about moving forward with it. And on New Year's Eve, all 10 schools will play each other, two on the course of New Year's Eve. So there'll be 5 Big East games televised across the country, nationwide, and we will be playing Butler in Indianapolis, in what I understand is a famed basketball court. So at least that's what Jim tells me. We're very pleased with it, and I think our coaches are very pleased with it. Jay Wright hasn't stopped talking about it. Every day he comes in to me and says, "This is great, I love it, I love it." So as long as Jay's happy, I'm happy.
Well, it's a great outcome. I get the chance to talk to many alumni, and I would say that it's virtually unanimous. It's a great outcome, and also, I do have it on good authority from at least one other president that's involved that you may be able to guess. But Father's being humble because he was very much the catalyst in prompting this approach, and so really I think it was a terrific outcome for Villanova, and we're really looking forward to this year. And Jay does share that with me as well. He is so excited as well. So I think it's a great outcome as myself. Moving along from athletics, can you talk a little about, you've been spending some time this school year talking about our position in the marketplace in terms of our Northeast rankings and our national university reputation versus rankings. And I thought maybe you could give a brief overview of your thinking there and where we might be heading in the future on the academic front.
Villanova is in a strong position right now, both admissions-wise. We attract a high quality of students. That quality of students is getting better and better every year. I think this freshman class is probably the best academically prepared class we've ever had. We are in the neighborhood now of the average SAT scores being 1330 and above out of 1,600. We had close to 15,000 applicants. For what we wanted was 1,630 places. So we are, our win rate between some of the larger institutions is becoming smaller and smaller. So we are attracting more students who are choosing Villanova over other institutions such as Boston College, Georgetown, Notre Dame, the big Catholics, so to speak. That's how we look upon our relationship with them. And we have been we are classified as a master's comprehensive institution and we are in the Northeast region of the United States. That is a classification that is created by a foundation called the Carnegie Foundation. They classify every institution in the country. They come every 5 to 6 years and take a snapshot of the institution and say, this is who you are. This is the kind of student you have. These are the kinds of programs you're offering. This is the amount of research you're doing. These are the doctoral programs you have in place. And there's a whole list of criteria that they use, and then they classify you in terms of whether you are a Bachelor of Liberal Arts School, Master's, Master's Comprehensive, Doctor, Doctor Research. There's a number of categories that they use. Villanova right now has been in this classification for many, many years now, but we are right at the brink of being reclassified. We don't have a whole lot of say in it. The Carnegie people come in and they look and they say, this is who you are. You can go through all kinds of processes with them of trying to get them to change that or look at it, but very rarely do they do it. They say this, black and white, data shows this is the kind of institution you are. As of now, Villanova has every criteria to be reclassified into a doctoral institution except for one. And that is that we have 3 doctoral programs. We have a doctoral program in philosophy that we've had for a number of years, engineering, and nursing. And you need to graduate, if you are graduating 20 PhD scholars, students a year, you are classified as a doctoral program, as a doctoral institution. This year, we graduated 18. The programs are continuing to grow. They're flourishing. We believe that in the next time that Carnegie comes, they are going to look at us and we could be right over that number or at that number. We can either do one of 2 things. We could decrease that number and stay where we are, or we can continue to move forward and be in that classification of a doctoral institution. It would put us on a very different list of schools, a list that we compare ourselves more and more every year with, and take us away from being in the Northeast region of the United States and put us into a national category. We have, and we've been tracking this, our data people have been tracking this, and the academic people, the deans, the faculty councils, and everybody that's working together on this. It's really following our strategic plan of becoming more of a national, having more of a national reputation. And so we're at the point right now that we need to make some decisions, and we need to really kind of put things into place so that we are prepared for when this happens, because it will happen. Unless we decided as an institution that we're going to get rid of a doctoral program, and we're not going to do that anymore. And that's not really where we are or what we've invested in over the years. And so we need to prepare ourselves, and we need to prepare our alumni, our different constituencies, that we are going to be reclassified. And there are different levels of doctoral schools. Research is certainly part of it, but we're not going to be, the University of Michigan, or we're not going to be Notre Dame. Notre Dame does a great deal of research. We're not going to be that kind of doctoral program. Will be a different one. Once that's done, you're then ranked by other institutions, such as U.S. News and World Report. So then they take all of the doctoral programs or all the master's comprehensive programs, and they rank you. We believe that if we put everything into place and we take the next several years to kind of really tailor ourselves, we could be within the top 50 to 60 national institutions in the country. We would be similar to Wake Forest. Wake Forest is in the top 50. We are the same kind of school. There's a lot of similarity between us. So we're really trying to position ourselves to fall within that category. And hopefully, with everything working the way it should, that can happen. I'd be very concerned that if we were going to end up being 250, but I'm confident, and everybody tells me here, that's not going to happen. I know that's not where we would be. So it would put us in a very different place. If you looked at U.S. News and World Report right now, the Northeast region, we have been the #1 school in the Northeast region for 21 years consecutively. But if you look at their list, the schools that are under us are not schools that we really associate with. They're not schools that we aspire to be. They're all good institutions. I'm not saying anything about that, but Villanova has become a very different place. And we need to take our place in a national image, in a national footprint. So that is really kind of the direction we're going in. It could happen within the next 5 years. If it doesn't happen in the next 5 years, it most definitely will happen within the next 10. So we just need to prepare ourselves for that. I don't want to get caught and have them say, oh, you're now doctor, and all of us are going, what? We never thought we were going to be that, you know. We need to prepare ourselves for it, so that's the direction.
Great. I think overwhelmingly there's a lot of excitement about this decision. It is some uncertainty for us, but we constantly are comparing ourselves, you know, behind closed doors and elsewhere to the schools that you mentioned. Georgetown and BC is who we benchmark ourselves against in the business school, and I know as a university. And so to not be on the same list is almost you know, inconsistent with the way we view ourselves. So this is an exciting next chapter, I think, for Villanova from my perspective. So moving off of campus a little bit, we certainly have folks here who collaborate with us every day. As dean, I would say, you know, for having been on the faculty at Villanova for 4 years, that it has been an overwhelming and humbling experience to be out speaking to our alumni and friends and corporate partners, and the support that everyone gives and the collaboration we receive from those of you in this room and others is just overwhelming. So I was wondering if you'd share some of your thoughts about what are some of the outcomes in terms of a collaboration with alumni and parents and friends and corporate partners that, and actually maybe some of your experiences and how you feel about that as well.
We've had there's been a lot of effort made in terms of connecting our students to our alumni. Students today think very differently than you or I did when we came to college. It isn't so much nowadays. Now, the price tag is very different, and you know that is something that is a very big concern for us. You know, the accessibility of education. The price tag is a difficult thing for us to manage, and we are really trying to look at it and contain it. But when students come to us, it's not, their attitude isn't so much anymore of, what am I going to receive from Villanova, or how am I going to change because of my involvement at Villanova? It's really, what is Villanova going to get me after? You know, how is Villanova going to prepare me for the job market? What kinds of, they're asking questions like, where are your alums? What kind of jobs do they do? What kind of salaries do they make? Those are the questions that seniors in high school are asking us, and their parents, about what happens to a Villanova graduate. So we are really working in a very succinct way, I think, with a lot of our alumni groups in terms of bringing people back to the campus. I think a number of you have come back to the campus to talk about your experience with our students. We have a wonderful network up in New York City of people that, there's the New York Financial Club, if you've ever heard of it, but it's a group of people working in New York who have done a lot of efforts to teach our students how to interview properly, offering internships, doing all kinds of things in terms of how to enter into the financial world in New York City. We have a lot of people. We've got some intern offices now, internship offices within our colleges who are working very closely with our alums. There's a program within the College of Arts and Sciences that brings back a lot of different people on a regular basis to do kind of forums or workshops with our students about different careers, what kinds of things they do, how do they, and that's really different for the College of Arts and Sciences to be doing that. But it's this kind of what can we do to help prepare you for when graduation comes? So there's a lot more networking going on. We have, I think you know that Mike O'Neill, his staff has kind of expanded into regions. So now we have the New York office, we have the Boston office, we have the entire West Coast. There's an office on the West Coast, you know, they cover everything. And we're opening one shortly in Chicago. And those development people have really worked very strongly with our alums in those areas to kind of bring them back to campus, bring them together, get opportunities for our students to meet them, and really connect one way or another. So there's a lot of collaboration going on with that. We've also put into effect a parents program for parents that are here at the university who aren't necessarily alums of the university. And we have this parents advisory group. And if you may remember Father Stack, do you remember Father Stack? He's still here, going strong. But he and Patty McGoldrick in our advancement office have developed this whole parents program with Steve Merritt and Nancy Dudak, who's in the career counseling office, and they go out, they have these parent forums of parents of our present students in various regions talking about what the school is offering, what kinds of things are happening, what is their experience of it. And so there's been a lot more collaboration in terms of how we kind of reach out beyond the boundaries of the main line to really connect our students to a more global world. And there's a lot of programs that are going on internationally, China, Europe, Latin America. So there's a lot going on that are bringing our students outside of our bubble here at Villanova.
So in the business school, I can share some of those specifically. We have had a great success. I mentioned yesterday a class called Competitive Effectiveness at the sophomore year that all of our students take. That's a combined marketing and management course. So it's a great example of collaboration. But also, as part of that course, we have live cases. We have companies like Johnson & Johnson and others that come in with their executive teams and pitch real problems to our students, who are then formed into not groups, but collections of 9 and 10 students. So this is beyond a group, and it forces actually the students to organize themselves. So now at 10, you're an organization. You have to have division of labor. Excuse me. But without those live cases, without that collaboration from these companies that come in, American Eagle Outfitters is another one that's come in, and several others. That's a tremendously powerful course to work on real problems for our students and pitch back to a real executive team. Philadelphia Inquirer was one of our companies, and they actually implemented this past year one of the suggestions and recommendations of their team of Villanova students. Another highlight in terms of this last year for the business school was our newly formed Global Citizens program. So we understand that we're the only undergraduate school in the country that has a freshman year study abroad, full semester study abroad program in Singapore. So past spring, we had 17 of our undergraduate freshmen, these are 18 and 19-year-olds, who spent the semester covering all their courses for Villanova in Singapore. And why this was so interesting is because we found that many of you in this audience and others had business operations in Singapore. It really is a gateway of sorts to the west, to the east. And it was a terrific opportunity. All of those students had international internships. So if you can imagine 18 and 19-year-olds having had a study abroad experience in Singapore, some of these students were sharing stories about weekend trips riding elephants in Indonesia and scuba diving the reefs off of the Philippines and working for KPMG in their Singapore office. Imagine at 19-year-olds to be able to have that life experience and on their resume and as an interview topic. It's really powerful stuff that occurs because of the support of our alumni. So a couple of great examples. And in fact, on the note of internships, Father mentioned the financial club, but we have really fostered and promoted this notion of internships. We find in the business world in particular, and I know Jean Ann's finding this across the board in her, the vast variety of places that students in arts and sciences end up. But internships are truly becoming a gateway into full-time positions. So more and more organizations are requiring them, or they're looking at it a way to kick the tires of folks that they intend to hire full-time. And last year at the business school, we were ranked 3rd in the country in terms of the percent of our students who did undertake an internship during their 4 years. So 95% or so reported that. And that's obviously a great strength, but it's a testament to collaboration from our Villanovans that are alumni. And so that's the last piece. So I started off as a dean thinking that I would have to go out and ask Villanovans to help Villanovans, but I've come to, over the last year and a half, realize that so many of you shared stories about how those before you helped you get your job, helped you advance your career. And so now I sort of say it a different way. We have an expectation that Villanovans will help Villanovans. And so we expect that you will come back to campus, and you are all in this room are doing that already, but I want to tell you we appreciate it, but we also expect it. Somebody probably did it for you, and we hope that you come back and do it for our students. Help us give them the opportunities that you had in moving forward, and really, we appreciate it, but we also expect Villanovans to help Villanovans, so thank you very much for that. My last topic I wanted to ask you about is one I know that is something you're working on a fair amount, and that would be collaboration with our local community.
Is that what you call it?
Speaking of ships rubbing next to each other oftentimes, it's a great analogy for and a lead-in to talk about our community relations and the project that we've been discussing for a couple of years now, and maybe you give an update on where things stand, Father.
Well, as you know, we are proposing to the township a building project that will take place on the parking lots on south of Lancaster, what are right now the big parking lots. And we are proposing a rather major building project that would go on there of 8 residential apartments with retail on the first floor, a parking garage located in the back of that area, and a performing arts center located in front of it. It has been a process with the township, and I have to say that sometimes Villanova people give Radnor a bad rap, but the township staff and the township commissioners have been working with us, and they have needs and we have needs, and we're trying to balance both of those needs. We have gone through the process of designing the buildings. There was questions about that, the questions about the size, the height, the setbacks, all of those things that go into building buildings in local municipalities. The area itself, the parking lots are zoned differently. So there's sections of the parking lot that is zoned institutional. There are sections of the parking lot that are zoned commercial. And there's one small section of one of the parking lots that's zoned residential. So it is, we're trying to get this overlay. So we are asking them to rezone the whole area in one fell swoop, that we can look at the project as a complete project rather than going from section to section to section to section. So we have worked with them on a lot of different issues of size, shape, distance from the roadway, all of those kinds of things. And a couple of weeks ago was the first time that we presented the whole project to the commissioners. They voted 5-1 to push that project forward. So we are now going to the Planning Commission to talk about all of these things and some of the changes that we've made. There certainly are issues, and as you might expect from anybody that lives in the area, there are issues of traffic and safety and all of those kinds of things that we are trying to answer. But we're hoping, if everything goes well, that we will be able to go back to the commissioners to get an amendment. I think it's is that Chris in the back? It looks like Chris, yeah. Is that what it's called? Yeah, the zoning amendment. That will allow us to move forward with it. Chris Kowalski, if you have any questions about that, he's sitting back there. He is in my office. He's an assistant to me in terms of external relations, and he's done a fabulous job of working with the commissioners and the township staff. But they are very open to the idea. It's not like they're saying no, 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 absolutely not. They have concerns, as any municipality has concerns about what kinds of things we're doing. Now the neighbors, some of the neighbors are a totally different thing. There are some neighbors that are not interested in the project, to say the least. And there are others that are very interested in it and really very supportive of it. When I came into the presidency 8 years ago, I promised the township that I would work to bring more students back onto campus. That had been a rallying cry of the township and the neighbors for a long time. Most of our seniors live off campus. We offer 3 years of housing. and most of the seniors move off. And there is always tension between town and gown and students and neighbors. Many of our students do a wonderful job in the neighborhood, some of them don't. So the effort, the idea behind this project is really to bring an additional 1,200 students back onto campus and out of the neighborhood. And so there are many people that are welcoming that idea. But there are others that are concerned about, the size, the shape, the university is growing, and are concerned that we're going to change numbers and increase enrollments and all of those kind of things. And we're trying to do the best we can to assure them that that is not going to happen, that this is really to enhance the present community of Villanova, to really, I speak all the time about, I would like, after this project is completed, that people have a real sense of driving not past Villanova, but through Villanova. And it really is a way of kind of connecting both sides of Lancaster Avenue for us. We are very landlocked, as you might imagine. So we have to be careful about where we build and how we build. And this seems to be really one of our best options. So the process is moving along, as in anything like this. I'm sure if any of you are construction people or real estate people, you realize it takes a long time to kind of massage all of these issues. So we're in the process of massaging right now.
That's terrific. Great update. And as a Radnor resident, I think there is overwhelming support, but there is a vocal minority who have concerns, and I think we're trying our best to be responsive to them, as I see it as a resident of Radnor. I think that about concludes the things that I wanted to bring up. Open the floor to questions, and while we have Father here, we could
thank you.
Answer anything. Bill?
Thank you, Father and Pat. Thank you very much. Given all the great momentum that we've built here, and you've touched on some of this, but where do you really see Villanova in the next 5, maybe 10 years? Can you look out and tell us your vision for Villanova?
Well, I do believe that we will be classified as a national institution. I think we will be partnering with very different institutions, and as we already are. I mean, when we were talking earlier, we compare ourselves. Some of the peer schools that we have right now, peer schools, are Bucknell, Lehigh, Boston College, all of which are national institutions. So we are looking at how do we continue to become much more spotlighted in terms of where Villanova is situated. We are doing a lot in terms of expanding our geographic footprint in terms of our student body. 30% of the freshman class this year comes outside of the Northeast region. So we are looking to how do we, and that's not that we're necessarily going out looking for them, but they have discovered us. So they are coming to us. And this year was the first year, I think, that we had applicants from every state. That one person from Idaho finally came through. But and that's an incredible accomplishment for Villanova. And I think that will continue to grow. So I really do see us in a very different place in 5 to 10 years. There's a lot we have to do. We're going into this campaign. If you haven't heard, it's a big secret. But it's a $600 million campaign. That's an incredible undertaking for the university. It is the largest comprehensive campaign that we will undertake. And I firmly believe we're going to do it, and we're going to succeed, and we're going to exceed the limit. I really do. We have had some wonderful gifts so far, and the kickoff at the end of October, we've been working on it. It's really going to put us into a different place. We need to grow our endowment. We are way behind the schools that we compete with right now in terms of endowment. So we need to build that up. It will help us do that. We need to make some physical improvements on campus in some of our buildings, the pavilion, Tolentine, the library. As academic centers of the university, we really need that. As an athletic complex, we're doing some work with the athletic complex right now. But we need to look at those kinds of things. We need to look at the faculty we have. We want faculty that are teachers, scholars. We're looking for those kinds of people, people that are going to be in the classroom, not in their offices or in their labs, but balancing their teaching with their scholarship and inviting students into that scholarship and research with them. We do a great job here at Villanova. We give a lot of emphasis to undergraduate education, and that will continue, even though we do have a number of very high-quality master's programs. But the style, the methodology of education is going to start changing. You know, how online education, and we have a pretty robust online program right now, but you know, that will continue to grow because the technology is growing and other schools are growing. So we need to kind of stretch ourselves, as I say to everybody. You know, we are, I say that I probably am going to give away my campaign introduction, but I say it all the time and people have kind of latched onto it. I believe that this is a giant that needs to be woken up. And we are a giant. We are a giant in the educational field. We have created a wonderful community, great programs, vibrant faculty, you know, and we really need to kind of rise. So,
Great. Yeah, back.
Father Peter, I just had a question. We're talking about collaboration and the fact that the campus is somewhat landlocked. Is there any ongoing discussions with Rosemont College down the road about doing something in the future?
there are always discussions. We are having discussions. Rosemont is not, but we are. I think that, I mean, we have, our relationship with Rosemont, quite honestly, has changed somewhat over the years. You know, we're two very different institutions now, where at one time we were much more in sync with each other. In fact, at one time, Rosemont was really a better institution than Villanova in terms of academic life. So all of those men that married Rosemont women stepped up in the world. But Rosemont has taken a different direction. So they're now co-ed. They're really trying to build up their community. They have reached out to more first-generation students in terms of their educational offerings. So we're a little different. We only have, like, now on our campus, Villanova's campus, there are 14 Rosemont students taking classes. There was a very different relationship before. One is taking her entire program at Villanova, but the other 13 are just taking classes. And there was a much more different relationship before. So we've become a little, they're wonderful neighbors and we talk to each other all the time, but they have kind of set a different strategy for themselves and we have for ourselves. So I tell them all the time, we're always here, whatever we can do for them, however we can help each other. And I think Rosemont has just made a decision that, you know, they want to try to do this different kind of model, and they're working to create that. So, and we're very supportive of them, but there isn't any kind of real dialogue going on right now about joining together or anything like that. They had a strategy that they put in place a couple of years ago, and it was really to remain an independent co-ed institution now, and that's really where they want to be. So you know, there's all you can do is wish them well and help them in any way we can.
Yes, in the back there.
Thank you. Going back to your comments about bringing the upperclassmen back on campus, has there been any research to know whether or not when the institution has predominantly all of its upperclassmen on campus, that creates more engagement and community after they leave Villanova to enhance that networking and the alumni as well as giving from an alumni?
Bringing them back on campus would enhance their civic engagement?
Or their connection to the university.
Or connection to the university? We could always hope. We've done a lot more. I think that in terms of development and engaging them as students, we've done a lot more now to engage them while they are students in supporting the institution. So they are much more aware of that. This year, the class that just graduated, we have a program now through the development office and the alumni office. It's called Young Alumni. And they do a lot of stuff on campus to kind of say, okay, you're close to being an alum. Now your relationship with the institution is going to change. This year alone was the first time that 50% of the senior class donated back to the university. So while they were seniors. So it was kind of to engage them in that process, but there's been a lot of efforts made with the alumni office, with the development office, to kind of create this. What are you now? Now you are moving into a different relationship with the university. I think that if they're living on campus, I mean, when I talk to the students, many of them say, I'd be happy to live back on campus. It would create a whole different relationship for them. They find it a convenience. They really would like to do it. There's always going to be those that want to live,
It's an interesting
Off
question,
campus,
though, if it would create even stronger bond. Hard to imagine, knowing those of you in this room, that it could be you could even feel more connected. But it's an interesting question. I don't know if I heard you talk about the competitive piece of this, the fact that we could offer, some compared to some of our competition where they have a longer time period they could guarantee housing.
Yeah.
So on that front, it's also a.
I know Boston College, for example. Boston College has their structure is that when you're juniors, you're forced off campus. And the seniors all wait to come back. I mean, they move back onto campus as seniors. And Boston College finds it that they bring them back in the droves. They're very willing to move back onto campus. There's a convenience to living on campus that, you roll out of bed and roll into class, and you don't have to comb your hair. And, it's really, there's a difference when you see the sophomores and juniors and freshmen walking on campus and the seniors walking on campus. It's like, did you wake up? So there's, I think many of them would like to live on campus. Would also give us the opportunity, though, people say to us, are you sure they'd all move back on? And as I said, there's always kids that are going to want to live off campus. But it could also give us the possibility of offering housing to some of our graduate students, which we don't now at all. And one of the difficulties for Villanova, too, is our transfer students. We don't offer them housing. So it could change the complexion of the campus very much so.
It's an interesting question. Mike.
Housing a high priority that we can offer to faculty. High cost of.
Do you mind repeating?
Obviously the neighborhood's a high cost of living
Yes,
neighborhood.
yes.
And actually where I live, where my daughter goes to school, a private school, we actually contribute to attract world-class faculty who otherwise couldn't live in Greenwich, Connecticut to live on campus.
We've actually talked about that some of the spaces in this apartment complex could actually be younger faculty and offering them the opportunity to live with the students. We'd like to create the environment to be a very kind of living, learning environment. So there will be spaces in it that will be used as kind of seminar rooms and things like that.
So if I heard you correctly, you're thinking about housing for the deans?
President, if you want to live with students, we can arrange that. Jean Ann, you ready?
All right, we have time for one more question. Eric, wait for the microphone for a second, Eric.
Good morning. Father Peter, I wonder if you could speak to the correlation between athletic success and national reputation for the university, in particular with regard to football, because I know that there was some speculation that Boston College certainly benefited from its, the Flutie effect of its football program, in particular being a national Catholic university. Maybe you could speak to the importance of football.
Well, we looked very carefully at football. We took a very hard look at it, and I would say certainly the board's athletic committee took a very hard look at it, and the board of trustees took a hard look at it. We have some, when we thought we were being offered something formally, it turned out that we weren't being offered it, and part of it was that we just could not guarantee the size of a program that football is now really looking for. So we couldn't guarantee a larger stadium. We had a possibility in it, and it was difficult to give them those kinds of things that they wanted, that conferences wanted. The program is a very expensive program, and when we looked at what we could do and where we were in terms of our fundraising and endowment and all those kinds of things, it would have taken us a long time to build up a program in this day and age. I think when Boston College made the switch, it was a different era, different time. There are not many schools that make money on football. Many of them lose money on football. And we looked at a lot of those issues. And so we made, when the invitation was taken back from us, we looked at it and said, well, we're in a good place right now. And football, it has been a very good thing for our school. And it's there, and we're playing in a division that is suitable for us. We just didn't have the resources to kind of do what they wanted us to do. So that was the difficulty with it. We actually did, if you ask the other 6 other Catholic presidents about my role in this, they probably would all say, like, well, I did it. But it's, we went, when all of this was happening, we actually went to the ACC and said, what about us? They said no. And it was mainly because they were trying to build up their football programs. So, schools like Duke and Wake Forest, for them, they want them to come up. And it was like, well, if you're only offering us a 30,000-seat stadium, that's not really what we want. Football's super boxes now and TV time and all that kind of stuff. So. And lots of headaches.
Well, thank you so much, Father Peter, for joining us today and being so supportive of our Business Leaders Forum.
Thank you.